Hello folks, I hope you're having a great day today. Hey, today I want to take a look at a series of planetary romance stories. What I want to do is start with John Carter's Princess of Mars, which will kind of kick off, I think, the genre really in a major sort of thing. John Carter's, written by Edgar Rice Burroughs, but the John Carter stories are one of the most influential, well-read stories out there. It's hugely influential, a lot of things that came back afterwards. And so forth. Stories were being written in this genre for decades and decades to come. And later on, you'll have some like Marion Zimmer Bradley and McCaffrey and so forth. And there's just a whole lot of people that are going to write in it and so forth. So what I wanted to do, I just finished up my Cthulhu Mythos and so forth, and doing a whole bunch of stories in it. And I felt what I wanted to do was to push into a completely different area. And you can't be more different than I think the Cthulhu Mythos and that sort of subgenre of horror than planetary romance, even though they're both being written kind of in the same time in the pulp era. I don't think that Edgar Rice Burroughs is a John Carter of Mars, or some of the later stories that we're going to take a look at over the next week or so, or 2 weeks actually. I got 4 stories planned and so forth, are going to be ones. But we're going to just take a look at this one, which is hugely influential, kicks off the genre in a major way. There's a reason why Edgar Rice Burroughs is in the Science Fiction Hall of Fame. This is a story that definitely puts him. Now, when I use the term planetary romance, what I mean is basically a story that takes place on another planet, although the characters might start on Earth. And in this case, this one will too. It's not really scientific in the sense that it cares about how they're getting there. And sometimes they might just disappear and reappear in the place they're going to. Right? There's a whole lot of different ways that may happen in the plot and so forth. That's not really as important to the story. And then basically the story is going to have these high classic adventures on foreign planets that are exotic locations. They're not planets that are like Earth in the sense that they're Earth-like with all these sort of traditional Earth-like sort of architectures. Nope, they're going to be Mars, they're going to be Venus, they're going to be far-flung places and so forth. And so you're going to get a feel for that here of John Carter of Mars. It's not going to travel to Mars through a normal method like a spaceship or anything like that, right? Instead, he's going to get to Mars through a completely different and almost a virtually magical. I mean, it's written as science fiction, but basically he's going to teleport to Mars and so forth. And then once he arrives there, he's going to undergo a lot of things. Now, John Carter is a Confederate soldier, which is an interesting, I think, viewpoint and so forth. The framing device of this story is that this is being found by Edgar Rice Burroughs, and Edgar Rice Burroughs refers to him as Uncle John in a couple places in the storyline, and this is going to continue to be the framing device throughout the entire story and so forth. This was a journal that was written down. It happened in the 1800s, in the late 1800s, right after the Civil War, and so forth. It starts in the Southwest with John Carter after the Civil War being lost because his side lost, and so forth. And he's going to find his way to Mars, and then once he's on Mars, he finds out that he's pretty strong there because of the gravity difference, and so forth. He also has natural fighting abilities because he was a soldier in the Confederate Army and so forth, and was a decorated one too. So his ability to fight already, because he was a soldier, as well as his enhanced ability on Mars because of the change in gravity, is enough to make him a valuable commodity on Mars, and so forth. So he's going to arrive on Mars, have some adventures, and so forth. You may have seen the movie that was put out a few years ago, probably about a decade ago now, or so forth, which kind of takes a Princess of Mars as well as a few other sort of early stories and so forth. But anyway, he's going to fall in with the Green Martians, which are these 6-armed people. He's going to eventually, although it takes a while, it's not immediate, but he'll eventually fall in and rise up their ranks, become an ally of their leader, Tarkus, and Tars, and so forth. Then they're going to capture this princess, Fruz, from the city-state of Helium, and so forth. She's also the person that the novel is named after, because it's Princess of Mars. So there you go. And obviously, once they do, some typical pulp stuff will follow. She's not going to approve of him at first, but then he's going to start doing some things and win her affection and so forth. They'll eventually, he's going to fight a city-state in the Red Martians. She's one of the Red Martians. They're more humanoid in nature. They're more advanced. They have a bunch of city-states that are kind of rivals and so forth. He's going to fight this epic battle against Helium's main rival, that's going to happen. They're going to get married and they're going to stay together for 9 years. So that's the story of a princess and Mars. Now, anybody's probably going to be familiar with it and so forth. I probably took you a little bit farther than I would normally do in a review, but it was also a really fast review. I'm not giving you any details at all. And if you've watched a movie or you've heard of this, then you're probably already very familiar with that basic concept anyway. So I'll leave it there. But there's a lot of fun things that happen in this story. Now, Edgar Rice Burroughs, I would consider to be the most influential and strongest pulp writer during his era, because he created multiple properties that were hugely influential. Another example is Tarzan, who really kind of put jungle stories on the map in a major way. This idea of somebody being born in a jungle, being raised in it, and so forth. In this case, he's the son of a nobleman, so he can do a lot of other things. He's well-read, he's well-spoken, and so forth. He's also an incredibly gifted person. And his novel is actually really good. In fact, I would review it for you if I could fit it in to this stories, but because it's very different than you're going to think. It's a much stronger novel than you would get from the movies or films or the character in other places. So I actually would recommend it, but I can't fit it in because it's not a fantasy, a science fiction, or a horror, which is what this channel is about, and so forth. So as an FYI, check out Tarzan, the first novel. Particular. Anyway, but Edgar Rice Burroughs is great. He's a great writer. He has a lot of great, clever things, and so forth. And this is another great example thereof. He's also going to sort of create the Hollow World stories sets too, with his Hollow World stories, which are great, and so forth. He has some Lost World stories, which are pretty good too, although that's a follow-up. I think he has the better stories than the first person who puts them out, but you know, all credit due to where credit's due. The first Lost World was actually written by the guy who created a certain detective, Sherlock Holmes, Arthur Conan Doyle, created the Lost World subgenre. But I think that Edgar Rice Burroughs comes along, and I think that his Lost World story is a little stronger because this is who he is. He's the adventure writer, right? And that's who he is. And it doesn't matter whether his adventure's taking place on Mars or in Venus or in the Hollow World or, you know, in an island out there that's been lost to time that you got to take a submarine under to get to, which is an incredible idea. And so forth, to his many others, to Tarzan, and so forth. All of his stuff's about having fun and having adventures. And while sometimes his writing won't be amazing, he understands how to have fun with his story. You're never going to be bored. You're never going to be disappointed, and so forth. Now, to be fair, his stories are of their time. They're very tropified, so forth. Women are definitely going to be in the sort of the two tropes that I've talked about before, and so forth. They're either going to be innocent virgins or they're going to be people that are open sexually, but also not nice people. And they're going to try to manipulate people and so forth. But there you are. Let me know what you think about in the comments below. That is John Carter of Mars for you. So I'll go ahead and cut that up. If you've read it or so forth, I'll be happy to engage you with it further. I'll also be happy talking with it if you've just seen the movie, so forth too, and you have some questions or comments about that too. I'm happy to engage you with that further. If you like this video, please feel free to hit that subscribe button, and I thank you so much for taking some time out of your day, because we all have such busy days and busy lives. So the fact that you took some of this time out of me, that's really humbling, and I appreciate that. After this video is over with, I'm going to go ahead. We're going to be doing a couple more videos. We're going to be taking a look at a Jack Vance story called Big Planet. We're also going to be taking a look at C.L. Moore, her Northwest Smith stuff, and then we're also going to be finishing it up with Kane of Old Mars, which is written by Michael Moorcock. So those are going to be the ones that we're going to be following up with this sort of planetary romance series that I kind of wanted to do for you. But there you are. Thank you once again. Have a good one.